Hi, my name is Robert. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. It's a 94 850. I'm going to be pulling a manual transmission, swap parts off of it. Bolt right there is not locked under this wheel, but the 14mm may be. That may be a problem. Should probably have the junkyard people come lift this car up so that I can move these wheels back so that I can get these subframe bolts out. Anyway, I like to start with the inside, get that stuff out before I get real dirty. Looks like they may have tried to get the shift knob off of here. I don't recommend it. I recommend you pull the whole base, leave the shift knob, because you'll end up destroying the boot and the knob, as you can see here. There's also a clip under here that you don't want to bust up. This one actually looks like it's in good shape, so I'm going to take that clip off of the bottom of the boot. Then I'm going to disconnect the lines. I'm going to start off by lifting up this shifter, 4 12mm bolts, disconnecting the cables so that I can pull the cable straight. Then I'm going to pull the pedals. If you don't know how to remove this center console, check my video linked in the comments below. Pull the center console and then pull these 4 12mm bolts and pull the 2 12mm bolts from the side to remove this bracket. Then you'll be able to maneuver this up so that you can get this loose. What you want to do is make sure that the shifter goes into all the gears and stays in there before you go pulling the transmission, just to kind of make sure transmission is good. If you have a hard time getting the car in gear without even pushing on the clutch, could be something wrong with the transmission. That went in all the gears fine, so I believe that transmission's fine. Manual transmissions don't go bad that often, but if somebody is hot rodding it, destroying it, they can destroy it. Usually these are not destroyed because they're non-turbo cars. So if you can, move the seat all the way back and lift it up as far as it'll go up. It'll make it easy to get those bolts out of the side of that bracket. I have all these bolts out. Now for the hardest part of the job, getting these clips out from around the cable. What I normally do is get like a long nose hook, needle nose pliers, and just twist them and try to lift up on them while I twist them, or I put a flat tip screwdriver in between there and twist it so this thing starts lifting up. Then I pull it out with needle nose pliers. So here's my arsenal of tools. The flat tip screwdriver, twist that in there, and sometimes it'll lift that up enough that you can get something under the little space in there. But did you see that come up a little bit? Get that up a little bit more. Now you maybe use a bigger screwdriver. Once you get it up enough, you can get space in there, then wedge a screwdriver in there and pry it up some more. You can also put something down low like that and twist it, get under that little tab down there, start that clip working up. It's a job getting this clip out, but figure it out, get the clip out. I'm almost high enough to get something in there and lift that up. So let me see if I got a screwdriver and get that up. Once you get it going a little bit higher, it'll pop right out. Now I took my hook nose pliers, pried that up a little bit. Now if you look down there, I got a little bit of space for this to go in there and twist that thing up just enough. Now see, now I could get that thing out easy with any kind of pliers. At that point it's pretty much unlatched. So alright, I'm gonna lift that off of there, flip that over, and work on the 100. And all of these little clips and stuff like this that you pull out put them in a Ziploc bag so that you won't lose them. Just put all the little hardware in one Ziploc bag. Also have to unplug the cables from there. So what I normally do is I turn the cable so that it's flat. Then I take needle nose pliers, put needle nose pliers in there like that, and just pry it off. Hope you've seen that. Do the same thing to the one on the bottom. The one on the driver's side has a yellow tape on it. Now on the 70 series cars, you don't have this plastic in the middle, so you could pull this shifter out with the cables. But on the 850s, you can't do that. Next, I'm going to roll this carpet back and take out the pedals. First thing I'm gonna do is take this panel down, which somebody's already done, 3 T25s. Then I'm gonna pull the carpet back. You could break this off or unlatch it, whichever you prefer. It's hard to unlatch, got a separate video for that. And then pull this carpet back as far as you can. Then I'm gonna take off this kick panel here. It's got 13mm screws in it, 3 of them, 2 on this side, 1 on that side. Pull that down out of the way. Then I'm gonna take the steering collar loose because that makes it easier. When I took the 3 13mm nuts out of that knee bolster, I grabbed the front edge of it and just jerked it down. It falls down, toss it under the car. Next, I'm going to pull this pin out of here, take this steering gooseneck loose, pull the pin out of there, 13 on this side, 10 on that side, pull a bolt out. You may want to save the bolt in case somebody lose one later. And then with the steering wheel pulled all the way back, this is a telescoping steering wheel, I pull it all the way to the back, I can get that out of there. So let me go ahead and pull that bolt. Pull the nut off, pull the bolt out. These sometimes break, but I pulled it off of the gooseneck. Then I want to get this out of the way, so I'm gonna maneuver this thing down and out of here. But I'm also gonna pull these 2 nuts. I think they're 12. I'm gonna pull those so that I can move the steering wheel around, make it easier to get that gooseneck out of there. Got those 2 bolts out, so now I can move my steering column any way I need it to get this out. But I'm getting this out because it makes it easier to get the pedals out. So pull this thing as best you can until you get it all the way out of this neck of this steering wheel. And if you still can't get it out, under the steering wheel there's a bolt there, bolt there. Those 2 nuts will let this whole steering column come out. I got that gooseneck out. This one is good, and the pin in there is not sheared off. I've seen those sheared off before and makes it kind of difficult to steer the car. Next, I'm going to pull the carpet down, take those 2 10mm off of the cables, and you see how they are. The bottom cable goes to the driver's side, the upper cable goes to the passenger side. Take those 2 10mm off. Then I'm going to take the bolts out to take the pedal assemblies out. You got a 13mm there, a 13mm up there, and you have 2 bolts that go through this bracket right up here. One side's a 15, the other side's a 13. I think the 13's on the passenger side, the 15's on the driver's side. Take those 2 bolts out. Then the pedal assembly will be loose. It's the brake and the clutch. Then I'm going to take that clip off there, and then I'm going to take the clip off in there from the clutch master cylinder here that I'm touching. Don't lose those pins, keep those. And you can cut these wires on these switches. Cut the wire up a couple of inches on both of those switches and unplug the brake pedal switch. You see it behind that. These things break real easy, so try not to break them. I don't know how to tell you to get them out without breaking them. Hadn't figured that out yet. Then you can unplug the vacuum line or just unplug them from the switches and work them out later. Take those with you as well. Get this brake pedal assembly out. Be careful you don't lose this little metal thing here. That is the common thing that people lose. It comes out real easy, holds the spring, but try not to lose that thing. Again, there's 4 bolts holding the pedal assembly in. 2 nuts back there, I got those off already. I unhooked the clips on the brake master and the clutch master. Now I have this on the 15, which is a deep 15, and I got my other tool on the 13, and I'm gonna ratchet it out. So you got that bolt there, and you got one up about 2 inches higher. So let me go ahead and pull those 2 bolts out. You could take those bolts if you want. You don't particularly have to, because they're the same ones on the auto shift thing. So now I'm gonna pull this back, unclip the 2 arms on the master cylinder and the clutch cylinder. Alright, now I can be able to pull this down, but you got to make sure you unplug the wires or cut the wires on those switches. You don't want to break them. So I prefer to cut them and take the switches with me. I maneuvered those and got them down, and just now you seen I dropped the switches. I almost broke this one, and I think I did break this one. It's got a little tab right there that broke off on both sides, and there's a little tab, so that switch is going to be useless. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take this off of here because it's already ready to fall off and disappear, and put it in my hardware bag so I don't lose that. Next, I'm gonna prepare to take this clutch master cylinder out. There's a little bit of stuff around here. It's got a nut there, 13 millimeter. Then I think it has a T40 bolt up here. So let me cut that insulation back so you can see that. Then I'm gonna take all of these other 3 bolts loose from this brake booster. I normally leave one in partially. I spin them out till the end of the threads because I got to pull this out into the firewall area to get this out without breaking it, because I don't normally replace that. I used a 3-inch extension and a 6-inch extension to get those bolts out of there. So it's easy to reach. Got this screw out with the T40. Don't lose that. I got all 4 of the remaining 13 millimeter nuts off. You may want to take one of those for spares. Now I'm ready to go out in the firewall and start doing stuff there. Also got that 2 10 millimeters out. So I'm gonna go and disconnect the shift cables from the transmission, and then come back in here and pull those shift cables out. Actually, I can set those up now to be pulled out. You gotta bend them a little bit to get them to come out from in between there, and then lay them in the floor in here. Actually, I think they do come through here, so let's go take a look out. On the shift cables, you pull this clip out off of both sides. Take the washers off so you don't lose those. Put those in your hardware deal. Next, you got those hard clips again that you use on the inside on the shifter assembly. You can take those out. Now, I got to remind myself which way those cables go. Yes, those cables do pull into the car, and they go behind the steering column. So I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect those. You can mark these. Mark one that will go on the passenger side, so you'll know which one's on the passenger side, which one's on the driver's side. I think this driver's side one is also on the driver's side inside the car. Just some information. So I'm gonna unclip these after I move this airbox tray out of the way, because that is in the way. 2 12 millimeters, get that out of the way. Disconnect this brake booster hose because that's in the way, and then I'm gonna get these clips out of this shift cable. Never seen this hold down clamp, so I'm gonna take that, and now that that's loose, I'm gonna go ahead and undo that line on the master cylinder down there. Pull that pin out of that line, make sure you don't lose it. I'm gonna take this line out, and I'm gonna take the clip off of here and keep this line and this slave cylinder together. It's a 94, so it has an external slave cylinder. probably all the way up to 96. I normally use the tip of my knife to get that pin started. Then I use an extra small screwdriver to put it in there, put my fingertip on the end of it, and work that thing out. I'm going to unplug the line, and after I unplug the line, I'm going to pull that master cylinder out and put that clip back in it, and it's draining all the brake fluid out of the master cylinder side of this brake fluid reservoir. Once you get that clip ring open enough to start pushing it off, this slave cylinder will move to the passenger side some, and then you want to take and wedge it out a little bit more. Get that clip ring over the boot area and you'll be fine. So open that up till you get it over the boot area, and then work this slave cylinder out and pull it out that way. It should clear the lines. If not, just grab the line, turn it until it does clear. Work the clip over the end. I'm gonna put the clip in this last bolt in the hardware bag. I'm gonna reach up here and take that line loose or cut it. Then I'm gonna get the clutch master out, see how that line is run, and take that, and I'm gonna hook the hydraulic line back up to it with that clip. Use these wire cutters to cut that clamp loose from that line, pull that line off. Then you lift up on the brake booster and slide the clutch master cylinder from under it. Push the clip back in there so that the clip is in place all the way in without losing it. Now I should be able to push the hydraulic line in there and it'll snap in place. You don't have to take this bracket. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. The other one will work fine. So I'm gonna leave the bracket, trying to save cost here. Get the bracket off, you push the rubber hose part up, and then you can pull the metal part out of one side and pull it out the other side. Now I'm just gonna plug this in there. It'll just snap right in because of the way it's shaped. Now, got that all one piece. I put that T40 there, and I push the screw in the end of the reservoir line. Now I'm not losing fluid anymore. Time to get these clips off these cables and prepare to pull those cables out. But once I get these cables loose, I'm probably going to drop the subframe so it'll be easier to get the cables out, but they will pull through that way. Then I'm going to take the bracket off of the transmission, because that'll let me get the transmission out easier without the cable bracket on there. I got it started with the screwdriver trick, and I was able to get it out with these heavy duty pliers, wire cutter pliers. Sure why, but this cable bracket is not together properly. Not sure if somebody's ever replaced these cables or not, but if you look, this grommet is not in this metal piece like it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna fix that. But let me get this clip out. Now, if I push this cable through, push the cable through just a little bit and then lift it out. I'm gonna hold it in there and pull that clip out. I don't think those cables will go through that firewall hole with that bracket on. Get that part of the bracket out. I had to redo that, but I'm gonna pull those two 12 millimeters, pull that bracket off. Maybe that'll make it easier for me to get the transmission out. But this normally hangs up on the frame down there when you're trying to get the transmission out, but we'll worry about that later. Right now, I want you to take note of how this bracket is holding the wire harness and this heater hose, and take these hose things loose. This bracket here and this here, this little holder here, there's two more here. Anything that's holding this heater hose or your wire harness, you want to take that stuff with you. And I'm gonna take these wire harnesses loose from the transmission there, 12 millimeter. Whenever you take screws out of things, it's good to put them back in. I'm gonna cut this reverse light wire harness back as far as I can. I'm gonna cut it out inside this area here so that I'll have as much of that to put on the new car as I can. So I'm gonna cut that whole harness right there, and then I'm gonna get these 2 screws out, release those clamps, and put the screws back in the hole. Now I'm gonna unplug that switch and put that in my hardware bag. Now before I start pulling this transmission loose, I'm going to go ahead and get these cables out of the way so I don't damage those. They're running behind the steering knuckle thing there. So let me go ahead and get inside, maneuver those to where they'll be ready to come out, and then pull them through from the inside. Now you can pull this pin and get this gas pedal out of the way if you want, but you don't have to. But let me go ahead and pull this cable through. So I'm gonna pull the cable through toward the passenger side, and then this way. Try not to damage them. Out that way and through this way. Now I can pop this loose. Sometimes a trim clip puller helps, or 2 hands, and then I'm gonna pull these cables through. Okay, I got the plastic bracket loose. Got that loose. Now I'm gonna pull them through here, and be careful not to damage the boots on them when you get them close to coming through here. So let me use 2 hands. Get them out. Again, be careful they don't tear up the boot ends on them if you want to reuse them. Now I'm ready to remove the starter. 2 14mm bolts. May have a bolt down on the back of it, on the brace down there. Get that starter pulled out of the way. Then pull all the 14mm from around the transmission except for one, and then lower the subframe, pull that one bolt out, and get the transmission pulled away from the engine. Then you'll have access to the clutch and flywheel. Working my way down and around, I hit these 2 18s, hit this 12 right here to move that out of the way, get these 2 14s, get this mount out of the way, and then get the transmission bolts out around the bottom. It appears that they pulled the transmission drain bolt out, so I'm going to take this engine oil drain bolt out and put it in that transmission so that stuff don't get strode in there. And then I need to pull the CV axles. Let me do that before I pull all these bolts out of this transmission. I'm going to disconnect these 2 bolts here, since I got easy way to do that. And if those CV axles are good and you know that they're Volvo, you may want to take them. Then I'm going to take these control arms loose, and if they're the aluminum type, you may want to keep those. If they're not the aluminum type, you just want to discard them, but they do look Volvo. And then I'm going to pop this axle out this side, go over the other side, do the same thing. So get your impact, get that off of there. Let that loose, let that swing down. Use my carpenter's tool there. Pop that axle loose from the transmission. Pull this out. This one doesn't look like a Volvo one, but the one on the other side does. So probably not going to take this one. Probably take the one from the other side. I got both axles out, so now I'm going to take the transmission bolts loose the whole way around, except for this one top one. Then I'm going to drop the subframe. Make sure you have your cables out of the way. Get the people from the junkyard to lift the car up so you can move those wheels back. Take these 14s out of these tripod things. Lower this down about halfway, or remove that one. Lower this one down about halfway. I like to put something under the engine I'm trying to stop the engine from coming all the way down to the ground. Then I remove this subframe bolt and the subframe assembly stuff back there. Now I'm gonna come up here, pull the rest of the bolts out of this transmission, and I'm going to take the transmission support off of the transmission, and I'm gonna move this coolant hose so that I can see everything that's going on, and move this crank sensor wire stuff here, and go ahead and take these bolts out of the transmission and try to get this transmission off of the engine. So now I'm gonna take the hose off back there so it could be out of my way. Hold these two subframe bolts with that wheel assembly hanging under the engine like that. Everything pivoted to that side, which is good. Then I put my little trim clip puller tool in there, nudge the transmission, and it seemed to fall right away. So now I'm gonna try to get under there a little bit and pull this transmission off of the flywheel and clutch pressure plate. I pulled the bolt out of the top of that bracket. So hopefully I grab that thing and it pulls right out. That wheel skirt out of the way. Looks like I got a clear shot and my handle is out of the way of the frame of the car. So I'm gonna try to reach under there with two hands, pull that thing out without crushing my fingers. Pulled right out. 30 seconds instead of the normal 30 minutes that takes me. That stuff under the engine helped dramatically. Behind this throwout bearing is supposed to be a plastic nylon clip thing that clips there. That is missing. So I'm gonna look in here, see if I can find that piece, put that back in there, and get that flywheel and clutch assembly off. Well, that's it. Clutch still had some meat on it, so that's good. Flywheel looks to be in excellent shape. Henrietta's smart. When I put the wrench on there and it broke the bolts loose, it paused and then it slowly turned those bolts out. Let me push this flywheel off and I'll be all done. Get them to come get this transmission so I can get out of here. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.